Hello, hello. Nice stage. I think this is the first time I've been at a search conference and been at a stage like this. I feel like breakdancing or something. So, it's Friday. You guys have had, what, third day now of stuffed, just your brains exploding with information. So hopefully fatigue has not set in, and you'll be able to keep it going, get fired up, get psyched, talk about some SEO. My presentation is sort of broken in a couple different parts. The first part is sort of, hi Brian, like high-level, conceptual, philosophical stuff about SEO, because I've been thinking a lot recently how so much of what we do is, it's sort of easy to say and hard to do. There's a certain simplicity to SEO when you break it right down to what matters, and then you go and you take that and you start to implement and execute it, and everything just goes crazy, and it becomes really, really complicated really fast. So there's sort of this dichotomy between the simplicity of it all, really, and then how hard it actually is to execute. I want to talk about that, and then also talk about how to rank product pages for big brands, big, large sites, not necessarily big brands, but big, complex websites, some specific tactical stuff, and then talk about our work specifically at Zappos and what we've done there and the challenges we've had and sort of how we've overcome that and what we're doing there. So, Audette Media, we're a boutique SEO shop. These are some of our clients. We are about 20 people, and we're in Bend, Oregon. So if anybody wants to come to Bend and hang out, drink great beer, and talk SEO, please come visit us. We would love to have you. We have Nerf darts at our office. Let's start right here. I love this quote, and I think it really encapsulates sort of how we think about SEO, or at least I do, and how I hope my team does at my company, is that everything should be made as simple as possible, but no simpler. Just trying to distill things to the absolute, core of what they are. And SEO is, really at its core is really a simple thing. Once you learn the technical stuff, once you know sort of how search engines work, once you understand the competition, the competitive landscape, and the SERPs and all that stuff, it's pretty simple if you're in a vacuum and you're thinking about SEO by itself. It starts getting really, really complicated when all this stuff happens. There's different technology platforms, different stakeholders, different business requirements. There's different business strategies. There's all these possibilities. Where do you even start? SEO is just this wide open, massive thing. You can do so many different things. How do you prioritize them? So then you also introduce this kind of external thing that we're dependent on, the search engines. And Google will roll out Google Instant or new properties or new universal blends and stuff like that. Yahoo and Bing, well, Bing will just kind of take over Yahoo. All these crazy changes will happen. Stuff like Panda happens, and crazy algorithm shifts that, like Panda, are actually totally earth-shattering and world-changing for us and revolutionary. And all of a sudden, you kind of get this picture of SEO that's incredibly complex. What started as really simple and easy to understand at the base level, once you go out there and you start to implement it and you start to work on it, you actually realize that it's really, really hard. On top of that, SEO is long. SEO is a process. SEO is all about doing, and going. And you're going to reap rewards down the road after you engage in all these different things that in cumulative kind of add up to success. There's no silver bullet. And also, we're constantly reacting. We're doing so many things at once. All of a sudden, oh, we just found out there's a whole bunch of 302s that rolled out. Oh, great. Or, there's just crazy stuff happening all the time that we have to react to. And meanwhile, our big strategy and our big ideas and everything that we really know is right gets set on the table, and we can't do it. It takes time. When we finally get the chance to go and say, OK, we're ready to implement, let's start talking these through, we're faced with a compromise every single time we put something on the table. So, oh, we can't do it that way. Let's see, can we do it this way, And, OK, maybe you can do it that way. Maybe you can't. Little by little, you keep compromising and fight for some things. Other things you need to let go. Some things are impossible. Some things might be possible if you go to the right people, et cetera, et cetera. There's compromise at every corner, and there's so many different stakeholders. So SEO, in the big corporate environment, we're just one piece. We're an important piece in terms of bottom line revenue. We're an important piece in marketing. But we're just a piece. There are other stakeholders too. There's the UX people, the development people, there's the brand people, the marketing people, the PR people, all the other people, the content teams. We're one of those teams. It's all about execution, and that's the hard part. We can have the best ideas in the world, but they're really only sparks, and it's all about how we implement. And there's another really big thing, and that's that SEO is totally situational, right? So this is kind of funny and a little bit rude and lewd. Hopefully that didn't happen to anybody this morning. But we go into a situation, and we may think we have the right idea and the best practice or whatever is the right thing to do in that situation, and then we're faced with all these unique scenarios. So SEO is so often dependent on the things that exist in that specific situation. So, oh, let's see, we need new URL structures, but oh, we can't do anything with URLs. Or like in this case, the URL people are gone, but we can do meta tags. Great, awesome, woohoo. So some companies can't do anything with their URLs. Some companies can. Some companies, title tags and header tags are independent of each other and different things. You're going to need to talk to some different people about that stuff. Oh, there's no way to take this perfect strategy and say, okay, we're going to roll this out and implement it every single time. Unless you have all the keys to the castle and you control all the development resources and you control everything. I've been pretty vocal about sort of best practices in SEO being, how about saying it this way? Best practices in some ways are antithetical to SEO. In other words, having the idea of a best practice only gets you so far. It only gets you up to a certain level. You really don't need to lean on best practices to compete. What you need competitive advantages. And if anybody knows baseball, this is not a best practice what Pete Rose is doing here. He's freaking Superman crazy. He's head first into home plate. But he's going to kill somebody. He's going to score a run. He's going to do what it takes. He's going to make it count. This is a best practice. Here's how you slide. This is a competitive advantage. And in SEO, that's the difference. That's what you need. You also need risk. You need to accept risk and understand risk, but you need to accept and understand smart risk. And you need to know what the difference is. Otherwise, you're going to end up like JCPenney, who's probably back and okay now, but that was pretty rough stuff for a while there. And you need to innovate. And innovation is probably one of the harder things in SEO because you think like innovation, oh, that belongs to creative teams, and that belongs to, big marketing ideas, or maybe that belongs to technology and stuff. But innovation can happen anywhere, and if you can innovate on the SEO side, it can be a supreme competitive advantage, and it's very rare to see. So just all that to say, SEO, it's easy to say, and this is how you should do it, and this is how it should be, and it's really hard to actually do. All right, so let's get into some of the tactical, detailed stuff. I'm going to talk about how to rank item-level URLs, product pages, anything at the bottom of the hierarchy. This is really specific primarily to e-commerce, but also anything that has sort of a similar kind of model. Definitely not news sites and QDF stuff, but more focused on e-com and product page level stuff. It's a good exercise. It's a good challenge because it's sort of a lens for all of SEO because it can be very challenging, especially in kind of big, large sites. So starting with the home page, this is sort of the natural place to start from the site architecture point of view, to start from, the page rank flow point of view, internal page rank flow. And so this is really, incredibly important. The home page represents all the equity of the site. It has all the equity, right? The home page sort of is symbolic of the equity of that website, and it does, in fact, gather a lot of the equity. So what do we need to know about? Well, first of all, does anybody know what the reasonable surfer patent is that Google has? So Bill Slosky discusses this on SEO by the Sea, and basically, there's a lot of interesting stuff with this patent, but the thing to take away is that different types of links on a page can and should be counted in different ways. So nav links, global nav links versus footer links versus content links or on-page links, links above the fold, links designed for a prominent call to action versus links that are really sidebar, below the fold, in cool spots from an eye tracking point of view. So the thing to take away from that is that Google already understands the basic segmentation of a page and where the links lie and how those links should be counted, taking into account the user experience, because Google's always following the users and thinking what really makes sense from that point of view. So if we think about that when we're trying to rank products down in the lower level of the hierarchy, then we know that a global nav is going to count in one sense, and then on-page content links are going to count in another sense, probably much more powerfully, and footer links are going to be, probably the least powerful of all. So that's the thing that is really important, is that nav links, global nav links that you have on your site are really not equal to the contextual links that are above the fold. They are not equal to the footer links. Those are going to be treated differently. The one thing that I see time and time again is that people just companies stuff their global nav with all the links to all their different categories and subcategories, and it's this big giant mess of links. Not only is it hard to use from a user experience point of view, it's also just sort of diluting your ability to flow off equity to important categories. So limit the amount of links that you put in your global nav to the important links on the page. Amazon does a really great job of this. So Amazon sells, basically everything, almost. And their global nav on the home page really lists what are the most important categories that they have. And then when you drill down into that, you get a category-specific nav on that page. So in books, they've got their most important categories specific to that category, subcategories specific to that category. So this is a really powerful way to set up your architecture, a powerful way to set up your hierarchy that works very well. Also, keep in mind that these links here are going to be more powerful and scored better from a sort of equity standpoint in the crawl and in the internal link profile of that site than a global nav will. Also keep in mind that if links exist in the global nav and they also exist on the page, that certainly studies have proven and reproven again and again, the first link counts in terms of its anchor text. All the links count in terms of how they pass equity, and that's a different problem entirely. But if you have a global nav link and you have anchor text there, and then you have another link occurring lower down in source code that gets crawled secondly, that first anchor text is going to count. There are ways to work around that. They're sort of tricky, but there are ways to do that if it's important to you. And what we've found that if the site has a good, concise taxonomy, it's not necessarily as important, and we're more concerned with the equity and share that we get from placing links prominently. So anyway, but that's a whole other subject. Create canonical crawl paths. So I see this time and time again is that a site might have cross-categorization of products, right? So products in lifestyle or by activity, by brand, by category, by gender, whatever. And they might all kind of canonicalize up to one primary, this is the ranking candidate canonical page. But then with the way the categorization is set up in the architecture, they'll have a series of steps whereby you might go through a non-canonical category prominently placed on the site. What that does is it creates this sort of non-canonical crawl path. So it's a less ideal crawl path. The other thing that's important is just to ensure that you have clean canonical links. This is easier said than done because you'll run into sites that have core metrics, and core metrics is really bad about tracking on the URLs. You'll run into sites that just want to track it themselves and have session ID info in there and stuff. Amazon does a great job of serving clean canonical links. I think Target does the same thing to the engines and tracking URLs to all of us. There are ways to overcome that. It's really important because everything about a site, everything about a page or a document on the web is all encapsulated in that URL. The URL has all the value. And if you even add one parameter on the end of that URL, it is now a unique URL. It can be rolled up to a canonical, but it is unique until it is rolled up. We really like exact match anchor text internally. We don't care as much about it. I shouldn't say we don't care about it. We care more about it for internal links than we do for external links. External links, we care more about other metrics and things that are important. Sure, anchor text obviously is passed externally as well as internally, but in terms of the overall crawl and the internal link profile, you can go fairly heavy with exact match internally because it's all about relevance and what makes sense. Googlebot will have more leniency, or Google as an algorithm will have more leniency for that internally. Externally, exact match is very odd and unnatural if there's way too much of it. The other thing that's important, and this is sort of what Google already knows with their reasonable surfer patent, and Bing will come along and figure out with HTML5, is that now we have the ability to add structural elements in code. And we can say, hey, this is a footer, and this is a sidebar, and this is a header, and this is the main body page. And each one can have its own H1 tag if we want, and et cetera. So this is really important to know and just to be thinking about down the road. It's really not impacting us right now. But in the future, this is kind of where this stuff is going to be going. OK, so that's the home page. Let's talk about categories. So categories are really the secret to this whole thing. When we want to rank product pages or item level stuff, then we focus on the categories. The categories are the thing that they're the URLs that don't change or should not change. Categories stay relatively static. They're very shallow in the hierarchy right off the home page. They have all the equity that they can pass down from the home page. They're easier to build external links into than products are. Products go away all the time. Categories do not. Products are constantly life cycling, whereas categories aren't. So categories are really the secret. The one thing that is important to think about is sort of how you link from categories to products and from products back to categories. And the one thing you want to stay away from in terms of on-page contextual links, not talking about navigation, is products should link back up to their parent category. And products can link to other related categories. But products really should not link to other unrelated categories. And if you think about it, it makes sense from the user point of view, because if I'm in women's shoes and maybe a subcategory there, I don't really probably care about kids' shoes anymore. I'm down here in this women's shoes area. So you don't really want to spill out the crawl and the signals and the relevance and stuff off across categories. Focus it in to the specific category and subcategories where those products live, and then across other related products. The other thing that we do is we think about categories, and we really get competitive with categories. These are what we want to rank, and we think about ranking them for the head terms. So for Zappos, it's shoes and clothing and handbags and all these sort of big head and even torso terms, and it's all focused in on the categories. And that's where we focus all our external link efforts. We don't do any link building to product pages. We do internal link building product pages, but that's different, and that's more of stuff we control. Externally, we do not do that, and we focus instead on the category level. So bust out your spreadsheets, look at the competitive snapshot, look at head and torso terms, bust out the, what is this, keyword difficulty tool, which is amazing and awesome. And this is a ranking analysis for God. I had a guy call me last week, and he's like, all right, I've got plenty of money to spend, big company, we want to rank #1 for God. Can you make it happen? It's like, this is interesting. I was like, okay. Don't want to go into this with thinking about ranking #1 for anything. This is God, so what does that even mean? Oh, all right, forget it. Yeah, okay, we can do that. So it's pretty interesting, though. I told the guy, I was like, man, that's a really tough SERP. I don't know about that. What kind of intent is behind that? You got Wikipedia at the top, and then you got all kinds of crazy stuff. But it's a really competitive SERP, as you'd expect. It's funny, though, to think that people are actually sitting around a table somewhere going, okay, first order of business, let's rank #1 for God. Then, I don't know, profit. So, underpants gnomes. So anyway, get all competitive on that. A couple important things that I don't think people think about enough when it comes to link building is really age and velocity. So what we've seen time and time again is that the age of links matters. So when we secure a link, and maybe it's the New York Times or maybe it's Joe's Corner Store, a certain amount of age has to happen on that link. It has to stick around for a while. This is in e-commerce spaces, not in QDF and really fresh and news spaces. The other thing is the velocity of whereby we acquire links. If we can secure a lot of links at once and create this crazy spike, sometimes that's a really bad thing, because if it's not sustained over time, it's going to be a low quality signal if it's this peaky kind of thing going on. So velocity and age are really, really key here. Just a quick, majestic look, and I threw Zappos in here to see what they had, and for some reason they don't have data going back that far, but it shows just a natural kind of increase in links accumulated over time. That's what you want to see. I already talked about minimizing cross-category links within content. Those are already going to happen in the navigation anyway. And then mostly, I already alluded to this, but the reason categories are so important is because they're the one thing you can preserve. You can preserve that URL, and you can let it age for a very long time. And one of the things that we think about a lot is that everything is about sort of keywords, right? As SEOs, we're all focused in on keywords. What keywords matter? What keywords have volume? How do I rank for these keywords? But the keywords are really dependent on a document, and they actually are used to attract that document, like a net. The document is represented best not by the keyword, but by the URL. All the stuff stores in the URL, right? The anchor text, the link relevance, the neighborhood, all the stuff really stores in the URL, and the URL encapsulates that. So that's why it's so key when we move URLs. It sucks, and 301s sort of suck, you know, and we lose a lot of the equity. We don't get to keep all that, you know, link canonical tags. We don't get to keep all that. Moving URLs is a bad thing, and it happens every day, and it's our reality. But if you can preserve your URLs, and if you can age links over time, you're going to have a huge, distinct advantage. All right, so getting down to the item level and the product pages. A couple of just important takeaways here. I already talked about how products link up to their category parent. But the big thing here is that related links at the product level are the one tactic that you should employ, because these are very, very powerful. Or I should say they can be very powerful. It's very hard to do right. If you've got a category, that upper hierarchy page there, and it's linking down to products, then those products are relevantly cross-linking. You're creating this really great flat architecture, relational architecture between different items and products. We've seen it work really well. So this is a drugstore. They do it at the bottom. Even below the fold, discrete related links, a few of them can really drive revenue. And these are really driving revenue right here. At Zappos, you know, they went with the recommendation engine years ago. And I saw firsthand the unbelievable increase in conversion rate, time on site, average pages per site. Recommendation engines are powerful, but they make me sad because they're in JavaScript and they're session-based. The knowledge is great. You know, they're very intelligent and they really work, but they do nothing for SEO. Hardly anyone is doing this for SEO. A few companies out there are doing it. SLI is one that we could recommend, and also Bloomreach. Bloomreach is probably doing the best job right now of anybody doing it right now. It's hard to do because you need a lot of data. You need good data, and you need a lot of it, and you need to understand how to implement that data, and that's not easy to do. Less is more. You don't need a whole lot. You just need 5 to 10 really related product links at the product level, and for big sites, this scales very well. The other thing that's important at the product level is just to have the absolute shortest, most compact URL you can. The shortest URL will always score best. And this is another thing. It's very simple to say, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. You know, it actually, studies have proven that shorter URLs are more likely to be clicked. We have higher CTR and SERPs. They will score better. I personally am not a fan of hierarchy in URLs. I don't like having folders in there, mimicking 1998 when we all uploaded files in FTP and then we had a folder structure, and then now today websites still do that. We can have everything in the root. We have dynamic websites. I think in some cases there may be a user experience reason that's valid based on the taxonomy and based on the architecture and based on that site. But otherwise, get rid of the folders in between there and just go root with everything. And equally important is how shallow the click path is. Basically, the experience from the home page to the product page and how many clicks occur in between there. Less is great. So if you have 2, 3 clicks to get to the product level from the home page across the site, that's very powerful and very good. Let's talk about what we did specifically at Zappos, because like I was saying, SEO is situational. So all that stuff I just said, that's great, and those are hopefully some actionable stuff in there. But then when you take it and you go to do it, it's going to be unique every single time you do it. So what would we do at Zappos? We focus on the categories that have business interests. So management says, oh, we really want to do more than just sell shoes, because everyone knows us for shoes, but we have other stuff too. We want to sell clothing. So OK, we're going to focus in on these kind of important categories like this. The second thing we did is we linked contextually internally to these categories, sort of high level in the hierarchy category terms and pages. And we also leaned on categories externally through press in the case of Zappos, because we had that ability, because they had great press and they had a lot going on, PR teams and all kinds of stuff happening. We had all kinds of opportunities to lean on that for equity. So internally, we created some tools. One was basically an auto-linking tool called the Link Saber that would just highlight head category terms for us in product descriptions, in product reviews that people put up, etc. The third big thing that happened is a couple of years ago, Zappos decided to launch faceted navigation. So faceted navigation that's a whole presentation unto itself, how to deal with that. Bam, 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 bam. Very frustrating sometimes, faceted nav. So I'm sure people have war stories in here. There's a lot of different ways to handle it. What we had to do is we said, oh, great, well, here's this big faceted nav experience. And when you hit the site, you've got the home page, you've got some major categories there that are front and center. Then you've got the faceted experience that's always there. And then you've got the product pages. So what basically happened was this wall was built up between the big categories and the products. And in between, and what that wall was made of was the faceted stuff. It was creating a nightmare in terms of the way the crawl experience worked and the flow of equity, et cetera. So we came up with an idea. We said, how do we flow more equity to the product level, and how do we kind of subvert the whole faceted thing? We came up with a tool or a game or something we call Product Showdown. We actually called it Product Smackdown. Then we got smacked down by the WWE. Like, that's ours. Smackdown's us. Can't use Smackdown. So we did Product Showdown. OK, Showdown. All right, so this basically does a couple different things. The first thing it does is it's the solution for the problem of how do we build up a lot of unique content in a scalable way, in an automated, scalable way. The second thing it does is how do we build a lot of links internally to products? And the third thing it does is how do we kind of come up with unique content at all? Well, we thought, well, if we mash up very unlikely products together with each other, and we pull in their product description and their reviews and stuff, and we combine them in ways that are statistically unlikely, this is going to be unique content that really hasn't been seen before. Then we're going to link these products to their actual product page. We're going to put it all under www.zappos.com/one-folder. There it is. And then we're going to also continue to preserve the links to categories and the links to the main categories that are in the UGC and the reviews and stuff like that. Every single product showdown is archived on a unique URL. And these are just rolled out and scaled out. So this had this. Oh, we also did twitter.zappos.com, which I almost forgot about before. I just threw this in at the last minute because I had forgotten that we had created we basically streamed in Twitter, and then we had cut it up into different categories. So Adidas has their own category, Nike, and all our different products that we sell. And then every time somebody mentions, say, Adidas Originals in their tweet, we just auto-link that to the Adidas Original brand page. Or if somebody says, Nike shoes, then we'll auto-link that to the Nike brand page. And it creates a lot of content very quickly and a lot of internal links very quickly. That's on a subdomain, twitter.zappos, though. But now, with this whole Panda thing, subdomains will be interesting to see. Because we were planning on putting this back on the www, but now we might just leave it on the subdomain. OK, so doing these things successfully kind of bridged the main categories to the products. And we kind of subverted that whole faceted nav hell, which we're working on, and URLs are better there now. The other thing that we did is we really just fought hardcore. We picked our battle, and it was preserve category URLs and subcategory URLs. Because a lot of the teams they'd roll out basically maybe a new line in a subcategory of something, and they would just kind of throw up a new URL there. And so we're constantly doing this whack-a-mole. We're like, oh, look at this. So we've got a whole bunch of link canonicals to do, or we got some 301s to do, or whatever. So we just basically got it on everybody's radar. Category URLs, preserve them no matter what. Products were constantly changing and constantly are changing. They expire, and we handle those in different ways. So some products, when they expire, they're going to come back. In those cases, we'll just 200 it until it comes back. In other cases, it might never come back, in which case we're going to 301 it. In other cases, what we're doing is right now we're testing how to monetize these old expired products that are never going to come back again. So we rolled out what we call the dead products, and these are basically you come to a product that says we no longer carry this, and then you put a call to action. We're using the recommendation engine to drive people to hopefully stay on the site and come back around. This is sort of a slippery slope, though, because it's a little bit of the bait and switch, or it can be perceived that way. If I'm searching and I click on, oh, great, there it is, that's what I wanted, and I come there and it's like, oh, you don't have that, So it has to be a good user experience, and that's this is unproven as of yet. All right, 13 minutes. Another big area is video. So sort of switching gears, but this really relates especially to the product level. I don't know if you guys saw the ComScore data, and I don't know if you believe ComScore. You know, kind of take it with a grain of salt. But here's what they said. Retail site visitors who view video on that site are 64% more likely to purchase something. So video has some sort of compelling, you know, the idea of visual learning, I guess, is translating here to shopping. And the second thing is they're more likely to stay on the site. Up to 2 minutes longer, they'll stay on the site if there's video. Well, these are pretty good, you know, stats. Like, wow, that's really important. I thought video was important, and it turns out it really is. So we started doing, we didn't, because of the ComScore data, we didn't start doing this. But people already had it in their heads, hey, let's go big with video. So we started rolling out video, and at first we had a really hard time getting them indexed because our videos on Zappos pop up into a new little window. But we brought in some people to help and fix that problem. So now we have about 70,000, 75,000 videos indexed. And slowly over time, what we see is that even for sort of head terms, this is in Google Webmaster Tools, they'll report on this average position of like 140 and weird stuff like that. And we're like, oh, that's really strange. And then we started seeing them pop up in site links. Like right there. I don't know if you guys have seen those, but up until a few months ago, I hadn't even seen those. And then yesterday, did anybody see this search metrics study that came out? This is literally yesterday. They came out with the top 10 shopping sites that are using video, and Zappos was on the list. That's great and stuff. But even more interesting is that they asked the question, okay, of all this different type of blended content in universal search, news and blogs and shopping and video and images and all that stuff, what data type is more likely to rank in any given SERP? And video just far outshines everything else. So people want video, and Google is biasing video. This might be telling us that Google is really biasing YouTube, right? Because this is saying that they're ranking video like crazy in blended search, and 9 times out of 10, that is YouTube. Let's go back, actually. Who else is on there in video? Dailymotion, MetaCafe. Vimeo's kind of down the list there. I'm surprised. So anyway, video is powerful. It's powerful from a conversion point of view, and it's powerful from an SEO point of view. There's that URL. I'm not going to leave that up for long, sorry. You can just go to Search Engine Land, and it'll be on there. The other thing this has ramifications on is sort of SERP presentation and the CTR there. And this is something that I'm pretty fascinated with and have been testing and really thinking about is how do we improve our presentation in the SERPs, so that we can induce more clicks? Because I know that Google is using this data. If it's not click-through rate, it's a bunch of other usage data, and they're figuring out how to inform the algorithm via this stuff. And we can control part of that because we can control the presentation. The snippet text, the title tag, Google will dynamically change those from time to time, but we have more control than not, The thing that's interesting about this is that going back to some previous experiences, what I found is that better ranking is not always better traffic. So here's a query on Zappos. We moved from position 3 to position 1. Actually, I'll just tell you, it's Oxford's. Head term, Oxford's. So our impressions started going up. Great, great, look at that. But our clicks did not go up. And then I pulled up analytics, and I said, same date range. How do we do? And actually, we maybe lost a little bit in terms of traffic, which is really strange because we had gained a #1 ranking there. But when I look back at the listing, it sucked. Google was pulling in this snippet text from elsewhere on the page, and it was just this jumble, and it looked really bad. And I didn't even want to click it. I think Oxford's was all lowercase, and it looked really bad. It might have even said search results in there or something like that. It was just bad. So we got the #1 rank, but we didn't get any clicks or traffic from it. And we went back and fixed that. And actually, that ranking then slid for a while after that. I don't know if CTR was affecting that at all. So this is another patent that's interesting. And Bill Slosky, patent master of SEO, discusses it. And it's really, the discussion in here is interesting because basically what Bill says is sort of what we've seen. And that's that Google will sort of resort the first page, and especially the top 5 results, and test how people are reacting to that and the usage data on that. So you might take the first result and just flip it to #3, take #3 and put it in #1, and do that for about 3 days, then flip it back, do that for 2 days, and flip it back again, let it run for about 3 days. They're constantly doing this little game of playing and seeing what makes most sense. So I wrote an article this week on Search Engine Watch about sort of about this topic. A lot of it is related to what I just said. You can find it on Search Engine Watch. And I've got 8 minutes extra, and I'm out of time. No, I'm not out of time. I'm done with my stuff.